Hello, hello. This is another episode of the series Motivational Monday Live with your host, Aura Elena Martinez. And this week's episode is a title that you're probably going to be like, what in the world does this have to do with my well-being, living my most purposeful life? What in the world? Well, you're going to want to keep listening and watching so that you can understand how this all comes together. So the title of this week's episode is, if you're going to discriminate against this. Listen, because it's not what you're thinking, okay? So let me start off by introducing myself and also share with you what is it that motivated me? What was it that prompted me to start this series to begin with? So once again, my name is Aura Elena Martinez, and I'm a self-discovery and empowerment coach, helping women gain total clarity in their purpose so they can wake up to daily fulfillment and certainty now. Purpose is not to be limited to just a calling. And why is that? Because you could be living your calling and still not be living your most purposeful life. And why is that? Because purposeful life also includes you enjoying greater levels of mental well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, and why not, even financial well-being. And this is because every part of you in your life matters, okay? Every part of you matters. And what prompted me to start this series is the fact that Mondays tends to be that day of the week that there are those that are like, oh my God, I got to start the week again. I got to do this and I got to do that. Let me tell you this. If you are already feeling frustration, anxiety, you're not looking forward to the work that you're doing, you're not looking forward to how your week is going to go, let that be your sign that something needs to change. Let that be your sign, because you are not designed to be dreading the week, to be dreading what you have to do, to be dreading going to work. Like, you are not designed to be living that way, okay? Yes, things happen sometimes in life. Yes, we have challenging moments in life, each and every one of us. But that does not mean that life is meant to be a constant frustration, a constant anxiety, a constant sadness, a constant any of that. Okay, so let that be your sign that something is an invitation, that something needs to change. And it is my desire that you look forward to your Mondays, right? Because you know that every Monday night, you're going to be filled with goodness. You're going to fill up your mind with goodness. You're going to fill up your spirit with goodness. You're going to be filling up every part of you with goodness, right? We all need to be listening to words, to things that inspires us, that lifts us, that reminds us of the truth, right? And so it is my intention that this gets you closer to your truth. And why is that so important? Because the more you understand your truth and know your truth, and that you're living it, the more you're going to be experiencing that happiness, that deep happiness that doesn't require something outside of you in order to feel that happiness, right? Or for something to be a certain way. And that comes from within, right? That comes from within. That sense of no matter what is going down right now, I am grounded in who I am. I am grounded in the truth of myself and my life. That comes from you living your truth. That comes from you living your truth. And it is also my desire that this series elevates your level of consciousness. You're going to hear me say this every single week. And that's because your level of consciousness impacts you more than you can possibly imagine. Because your level of consciousness dictates what resonates, what's able to land to you. Haven't you noticed that there's some people that two people can have the same opportunity? People can have the same opportunity. And there are some that are going to be successful at it while others are not. Why is that? You may be wondering. There are many factors, but one of them is the level of consciousness. I can guarantee you that the people that are presented with something and are able to run with it and be successful with it is because they were in a different level of consciousness that allowed them to see the gift of what was in front of them, that allowed them to see the gift. Your level of consciousness will dictate how much things are going to resonate, how things are going to land. I'm telling you, when you're on the first floor and you look outside from the first floor, how does everything look like to you? Buildings are going to look really tall. People are going to look the same size as you, if not taller. The cars are going to look normal size. But if you go to the 10th floor and you look outside, how is everything going to look like to you? The buildings are not going to be so tall, right? The people are going to be a lot smaller. The cars are going to be smaller. The same thing is going to happen when you start elevating your level of consciousness. What was once very big will now start having a smaller significance for you, right? And then those things that perhaps were very small for you, they start having a bigger significance for you because you start looking at it differently, okay? So it is my intention that this elevates your level of consciousness. And once again, this week's episode is entitled, if you're going to discriminate against this. Listen because it's not what you're thinking. Now, the type of discrimination that I'm going to be talking about this week is not the one that you may be thinking. This has nothing to do with you discriminating against a religious background or an ethnicity or a race or none of that. It has nothing to do with that. And by the way, now that I even mentioned the word race, there is no such thing as races, right? There's only one race, and it's the human race. There's no such thing as the white race, the black race, the Hispanic race. No, we're all humans. There's only one race. The word race was utilized to create separation in our mind, right? Because if you could create separation in the mind, you're going to start seeing and feeling this distinction between you and a group of people. There is such a thing as ethnicity. Yes, there is such a thing as cultural background. Yes, right? There's differences in that, but there's only one race, okay? I just wanted to throw that in because it's time that we educate ourselves, right? And we don't believe this nonsense of different races. No, there's only one race, okay? So the topic that I'm going to be talking about today is one that I briefly spoke about on a podcast episode. I think it was last year, right? And let me just tell you this, I promise you that if you do this, that I'm going to be suggesting for you to do here, your life, your self-esteem, how you view life will shift, okay? And you will be able to create the reality that you wish, and you're going to start feeling the way you will want to feel, right? One of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they let the outside reality dictate how they feel, right? How they think about themselves and their life, what they think is possible for them. That's one of the biggest mistakes any of us can make, right? And I feel really called to say the following because I don't know who needs to hear this, but this, and I'm about to say what it is that T.D. Jakes, he's a preacher, what he said in one of the reels that I saw, it resonated very deeply. And trust me when I tell you this, I know what it's like, right? To look at reality and be like, okay, what the heck? Why is this happening? Why are things not clicking? I get it, right? Sometimes reality, life has those moments where we're like looking at what's going on and we're like, the heck, right? The heck. And then especially when you see others that are doing or having the things that you would like to have, and then you wonder, okay, why hasn't this happened for me? What in the world, right? This that I'm about to say, I want you to really let it sink in. Okay, T.D. Jakes said this, and I'm going to use a different wording, but basically, this is what he meant to say. The way the enemy lies to defeat you is through your mind and how you perceive things. I'm going to repeat that again because there's a lot of value in what I said, and I really want you to get the value of this. The way the enemy lies to defeat you is through your mind and how you perceive things. When you see that others are ahead of you, right? Or more ahead than you. Or when others are able to achieve something that you have not yet achieved. It is easy to let the image of the outside world defeat you. It is easy. It is easy to feel defeated and think, well, probably what I want is not for me. Probably what I want is not going to happen, but it can happen for others, right? That is the lie that the enemy wants us to think. That's the lie, right? And so how we perceive the images of the outside world, how we're perceiving that, that's what the enemy utilizes to get us to think what we shouldn't be thinking, right? And so in order to not be defeated by what you see, you must discriminate, okay? So first, I would like to read the definition of discrimination, because there are several definitions, and there's only like 2 definitions that I'm going to use, one more than the other, because there are several definitions. So the definition that I'm going to use for this week's topic is the following: discrimination, right? Because this is going to apply to this topic. Recognition and understanding of the difference between one thing and another. The second definition is the ability to discern what is of high quality, good judgment, or taste. I'm going to repeat this again because I want you to see how this word is going to apply to how you need to be utilizing this on a daily basis. Recognition and understanding of the difference between one thing and another. The second definition, the ability to discern what is of high quality, good judgment, or taste. Now, if you're wondering, what does this definition have to do with what it is that you need to discriminate? Here it is. Number one of the things that you must discriminate against is what you see. Now, this has nothing to do with people, with the color of skin, with religion, or nothing like that. What I'm referring to is the situations that do not come close to who you really are. Life circumstances that are just a small aspect of the bigger picture or the bigger vision of your life. Okay? Your current physical state, if it's a state that you don't like living in, right? Your marital status, whether you are single, married, divorced, whatever. Okay? So using the definition that I described earlier, you're going to recognize and understand the difference between a bad situation that you may find yourself in versus who you really are. It could be so easy for us to allow ourselves to be defined by whatever bad situation we may find ourselves in. No. You must be able to recognize and understand this is a situation that I am in, but that is not going to define who I really am. Do you get where I'm going with this, right? You're going to recognize and understand the difference between the fact that you may be a little bit in the heavier side versus who you really are. That you are a smaller version of you, that you are a thinner version, a healthier version of you, right? You're going to recognize and understand the difference between the fact that you're single right now versus you wanting or waiting and knowing that something great is coming from you. You are not going to let your singleness define you as, well, probably, I'm not worth it, or probably I'm not good enough, or probably I'm not pretty enough. You get where I'm going with this? One of the biggest mistakes that we can make that keeps us in the same situation that we are currently in, right, is when we give our reality, we focus too much on our current reality and give it the meaning, the definition, the whatever that it doesn't have, right? For example, and I mentioned this earlier, say, for example, you're single and you see yourself as single. That's how you identify yourself. That's, oh, I guess I'm going to be single all my life, right? And you start giving it the meaning that perhaps you're not worthy, or you're not pretty enough, or you're not good enough, right? Or perhaps that there aren't good men out there, or perhaps there aren't good women out there. You see where I'm going with this? Another example, you're going through a very challenging time, right? And you're assuming, well, I guess this is how life is, right? I guess, I'm meant to be going through challenging moments. You want to be careful that you're not thinking that and you're not saying that to yourself, because that becomes your reality. That's one of the biggest mistakes that we can make. We let a current situation define us. We let a current situation dictate how our future is going to be. We give it a meaning that it doesn't have. You must be able to recognize what's truth and what's fake, what's false, what isn't true about you and your life, right? Just because you can physically see it doesn't make it true. I want you to remember that. Just because you could physically see it doesn't make it true. This is so important, because so many times what we see is what we believe, because we could see, because we could feel it, because we could touch it. That does not mean that it is true. You got to learn not to give the outer reality a bigger meaning than your inner reality. And so many times we give our outer reality a bigger meaning than our inner reality, right? If you look at history, if you look at the history of people and companies that are known nowadays, right? If those people would have let their past reality dictate who they were, they wouldn't be who they are today. They wouldn't be who they are today. And an example of that is Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey was born in poverty. She was molested as a child. She was then fired from a job that she had, right? If she would have let her past reality define her, she would not have been the woman that she is today. Do you see what I'm saying? And I use this as an example because I want you to get how important it is that you discriminate, that you recognize, that you understand the difference between what is true and what is false. Just because you're able to see it doesn't mean that's really who you are. Just because you're able to experience it doesn't mean that's what you're meant to be living. No. So it's very important. The more you keep your outer reality, or you keep making your outer reality bigger than your inner reality, the more you're going to be experiencing the reality that you're currently experiencing, okay? Another thing too that I would like to mention here, because this is very important. If you're seeing and you're experiencing people who do not value you, do not see your worth, they don't appreciate you, they don't like you or whatever, and they treat you like so, okay, you must recognize and understand that this is not a reflection of your value. This is so important. You can't. Something that I didn't mention in the Spanish version, I don't know who needs to listen to this in the English version. A friend of mine told me this. Sometimes God will make people blind when those are not the people that he have for you in your life. Meaning, sometimes there are going to be people that are not going to see your value. They're not going to be able to appreciate you. And that's on purpose, because they're not meant for your future. They're not meant to be in your life. You can't take that person. You can't take that as, oh, I'm not worthy. I'm not this, I'm not that. No, okay? When you do not know how to distinguish this difference, this is when your self-esteem gets hurt. This is when your self-confidence gets hurt. This is when your self-concept gets hurt. There's a difference between self-concept and self-esteem. Self-concept is the way you view yourself, the way you perceive yourself. Self-esteem is the way you feel about yourself. Okay, but they both go hand in hand, okay? And so when you do not know how to distinguish the difference, when you take personal everything that people do, that people say about you, or the fact that someone doesn't see your value, this is going to affect even the choices that you make, what you allow in your life, right? So you better be mindful of this, okay? So the second thing to discriminate against is what you hear, okay? Not everything that you hear is worth you letting it touch you, okay? It's not worth it. 95% of the time, what comes out of people's mouth is a reflection of who they are. I say 95 on purpose. because there is a 5%, there is a percentage where what comes out of people's mouth is a reflection of who you're being, of what you're saying, right? Of what you're doing. But 95% of the time, it's a reflection of them. Okay. And this is why you got to take what people say with a grain of salt. This is why you can't take what people say personal. This is why if someone says, oh, this is ugly, that's their perception, not yours. That's their perception. So be mindful of the words that you allow to reach your ears, and be more mindful of the words that you allow to touch your being. All right. And this is because those words, they become your beliefs. They become your affirmations. It determines how you act, how you feel, right? And how you live. This is why this is so important. And another thing too that I want to mention, because it's very important, just because a society, a culture says something, it doesn't mean that it is true. This is so important. So many times we let what culture says, what society says, become our truth. No, it doesn't have to be our truth. Not everything that other people say is true. Not everything that a culture says is true. So this is very, very, very important. Even the words that you grew up, it's very important that you become mindful of that, okay? Make sure that you listen to things that fill your heart up, right? This is so important, especially with so much that we're listening to this so negative. It's so important that you make sure that you listen to things that fill your heart, right? That fill your mind, that fill your soul up, that shapes you in a positive way, that influences you for the better. Okay, listen to things that give you the courage to keep you going, even when you don't have that courage, right? Even in those moments when you want to throw in the towel. Listen to things that will make you fill yourself up with truth, right? Listen to things that will fill you up with truth. The things that come from love, that's the truth. The things that are full of fear, not the truth. That's how you will know what is the truth and what is not, okay? And this also includes for you to be mindful of the conversations that you're having with other people. This is very important, right? Because those conversations, they influence you, right? They influence your mood, they influence your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, okay? And I'm going to recommend that you reject certain things. This is so important, right? Reject other people's limitations. Reject other people's limitations. Reject other people's ignorant and hurtful thoughts and beliefs. Reject them. You don't need it. You don't need to internalize it. There are times that we internalize other people's limitations because they failed at something, because they're ignorant about something, because they've been taught for all their life that people of a certain culture, or people of such, whatever, you name it, right? Reject those things. If they do not support you, if they do not lift you, if they do not influence you to move forward in a positive way, reject those things, okay? And reject any rejection, right? Don't take it personal. There are times that we take personal the fact that someone cannot see our value, the fact that an opportunity wasn't given to us. You never know. You never know in what way you were protected further down the road. You were not rejected. You were protected. You were protected, okay? And the third thing to discriminate against is your emotions, or what, better yet, what your emotions are really about. Hear me out. Because trust, when I say things, there's a reason why I say it. If you're like thinking, what the hell is she talking about? Keep listening, because there is a logic and wisdom behind these words, okay? I'm not just talking just to talk, okay? I'm all about feeling the emotions and understanding, right? And I'm also about not dwelling in the emotions that when you dwell in them, they just lead you to spiral down, okay? It doesn't lead you to anything good. So what you must recognize and understand is the difference between the truth of your emotions versus the stories that you create around your emotions. This is so important. And the reason why this is so important is because this is what leads to a lot of breakdown in relationships, a lot of breakdown in friendships, a lot of miscommunication. And it's because we're creating stories around the emotions that we feel triggered based on what someone said or what someone did. So I'm going to utilize an example so you can see what it is that I mean, because it's so important to distinguish the difference between the two. Say, for example, you're very disappointed with your partner because your partner in a party, you decided to eat ice cream, and in front of your friends, he told you, well, you shouldn't be eating that ice cream, actually, right? And because you're disappointed and you're hurt and you're angry, in your mind, you're thinking, oh my God, how could he? How could he tell me this in front of my friends? How could he? Is he embarrassed about me? Oh my God, how wrong is it? So here you are, probably thinking he's an a-hole, right? Probably think he doesn't care about you, or probably deep down he doesn't even like you, right? He wish you were skinnier, so this is why he's telling you to eat, not to eat that ice cream, right? This is where the miscommunication, the hurt, the resentment, if there's a lack of communication, that's what can start it. So say, for example, if after talking to him, you expressed to him that you felt hurt, that you felt disappointed because he told you that in front of your friends, and then he tells you, well, I didn't mean to hurt you. You told me to keep you accountable, and I saw you reaching for that ice cream. So I was only trying to be helpful and get you to not eat that ice cream. Now, because you get his side of the story, you're able to understand, okay, then he didn't mean to be an a-hole, right? He didn't mean to be insensitive. He just was trying to hold me accountable, and he probably didn't know how to speak in a way that would say it differently, right? He didn't know how to say it differently. He didn't know how to be helpful. This is why communication is so important. This is why when you're feeling an emotion due to something that someone else did or said, it's so important for you to give yourself the time to understand what you're feeling, but also communicate to the person how their actions or what they said made you feel. If you care about the relationship, talk, because lack of communication or miscommunication, it only gives space for misunderstanding, disappointments, and stories. Okay, this is why it's so important that you discriminate, which means to recognize, to understand the difference between one thing and another. It's so important that you discriminate against the truth of your feelings versus the stories that you're creating in your mind. Because sometimes what can get you to continuously feel hurt, continuously feel disappointed, continuously have resentment is the stories that you are creating within yourself due to the emotion that you're feeling. It's when we're able to understand and recognize the difference between the two that we're able to communicate even how we're feeling and thinking a lot better to another person. And not only that, we're able to understand ourselves in a deeper level, because then we can understand, okay, I don't like it when people do certain things. So let me communicate my needs differently. Do you see where I'm going with this? Communication is huge. And you giving yourself that opportunity to really see the difference, to really understand the difference is huge. When we misinterpret the truth behind our emotions, we can miss out on valuable information. Oof, that's huge. You know how many times we feel an emotion and we're thinking is, this is the cause, this is the cause. And then we miss out on very valuable information. I'm going to utilize myself as an example so you can see where I'm going with this. I remember when I turned 30, I hit a wall of frustration. Mind you, I was 112 pounds. I looked the best and was my strongest than I ever was before. I mean, I have a job that I could travel the world, go to my favorite country, right? None of that mattered. Oh, none of that mattered. I was so frustrated. It would have been easy for me to think, oh, it's my job that makes me frustrated. Oh, it is this makes me frustrated. It is that. But when I took a moment to really understand, okay, what was going on? Why am I feeling this? Then I was able to get the most valuable information that frustration was trying to give me. That frustration was only leading me to my calling. It was trying to let me know, hey, this is not the only thing I have for you. There is more in store for you. I have more for you. But I need you to be uncomfortable, because if you're too comfortable, you're not gonna see what else I have for you. Do you see where I'm coming from? So many times when we feel the anger, when we feel the frustration, when we feel the disappointment, when we feel the discomfort, it's just easier for us to say, it's this relationship, it's this person, it's this job, instead of saying, okay, wait, let me remove the stories that I could be creating. What is this emotion trying to tell me? What is the information that this emotion is trying to tell me? Where am I supposed to pivot? Where am I supposed to shift? How am I supposed to grow? This is why I say, I am telling you, if you can learn to recognize and separate and really distinguish the difference between the truth of your emotions and versus the stories that you create around your emotions, so much in your life can change. Promise you, so much can change. I guarantee you so much can change. So it is my desire. First, share this video with other people. You never know who needs to listen to this episode, because right now they're in the middle of so much emotion, because right now they don't know how to distinguish the difference between one thing or another, because right now they are paying so much attention to their outer reality that they don't know how to discriminate, which means to recognize and understand the difference between one thing and another, the difference between the outer reality and their inner truth. They're all caught up living a life that they're not enjoying, that they're not liking, right? So it is my desire that, first of all, that you look at the word discriminate in a different way, right? That you utilize this concept that I'm encouraging you to utilize, and use it to only allow your good while pushing away what doesn't serve you, right? And if you're ready to transform your inner reality so that your outer reality can then reflect that, then I'm going to highly recommend that you schedule a clarity call with me. You could just contact me. I'm always putting that link, but you could directly contact me. And in that call, we're going to go over where you are now, where you would like to be, what is necessary to close that gap, and how I'm able to help you close that gap. You don't need to be confused. You don't need to be going in circles. You do not need to continuously be frustrated and not understand where that frustration is coming from, right? You are not designed to be living that way. You're not designed to be living that way, okay? So if you're ready to transform all that, schedule that clarity call, and it is my desire that you live life to the max the way you are destined to live. And until next time, bye for now.